Hello and welcome to the League One Lowdown here on the Football Deck. My name is Sam, and always for my preview shows, I'm joined by Mr. Callum Davis. How are you, Callum?
Oh, I'm not too bad, Sam. How are you?
Oh, good, my friend. Another windy day here in the south. I don't know what the weather is like in Lincolnshire.
I've not seen the sun all day is probably a fair way to summarise it. We're getting to that point, aren't we? The floodlights are on before the games even start in the evening. There's no such thing as an evening match. They're night times. The floodlights come on during the second half already. You know, we're into proper football season, as I like to call it, which can only be a good thing.
Yeah. And with the weather being pretty breezy, I think there's only one place to start with the Predictions League. You are breezing your way through it. Pardon the pun.
Again, yeah.
Another victory for yourself last week, scoring 14 points to my 10. So in total, out of the 8 match days played, you've won 5 rounds and I've won 3. You've had 13 correct scores to my 11. In the correct outcomes, I've had 25 and you've had 32. And then you've got 77 points and I have 59. The big thing that's doing it for you is you've had 2 correct wildcard scores and I've had 0. In terms of correct outcomes of the wildcard, I've got 4 of them and you've got the 1. If you would like to see the graphic, it will be on our Twitter page at League One Lowdown. So without further ado then, I think it's time to get cracking with a couple of humdingers of fixtures this week. We'll start off with Bolton versus Wigan. I'm not even going to say it's a Greater Manchester derby because I'll get killed in the comment section like we did last year when I said this. Bolton have had, I think, if you look at statistical wise, a pretty strong start to the season. While they've only they've drawn 5 games. If we look at the expected goals for Bolton, they're 4th with 11.6 if you're using FootMob, and then Wigan are actually top of that with 14.4. So it could well be on paper a pretty entertaining fixture.
Yeah, I think the thing is, like you mentioned, Bolton strong on paper, but there's no point being strong on paper and strong on stats if you can't, win games. And unfortunately, football is such that if you're not winning games, it doesn't matter how many shots on target or how many key passes you've had or expected goals. At the end of the day, you're not winning football matches. So I think that's Bolton's issue. Like you mentioned, on paper, their form is quite good, actually. Unbeaten. It's all about how you phrase it, isn't it? You could say unbeaten in 5, or you could say 1 win in their last 5. Both of those are correct, but they both sound poor. Well, one of them sounds great. One of them sounds a bit meh, doesn't it? So it depends how you phrase things. But with the league being so tight, this a win for Bolton this time elevates them to potentially within a point of the playoffs, which then you would say they've had a good opening 10 games. I just struggle with Bolton. Like I want to see that killer instinct. Do you know? I feel like that's what them maybe they're just being a bit too nice. As for Wigan, I think that they're a bit. I don't want to say inoffensive. They obviously swept aside Doncaster really 3-0 by all intents and purposes. From what Jamie was saying to us from his match report, it was almost a bit of an off day for Doncaster. So I don't know how much to say from that from a one-off game point of view, but. Wigan potentially looking in the right direction. They seem to be stabling, and the thing is, they kept a clean sheet, which we've criticised them a lot for this season. Yeah. That defensive stability seemed to have gone walkies. Clean sheet will do them the world of good.
Yeah, 100%. If we look at head-to-head record, because some people like to think that head-to-head records have a massive impact on if they're a bogey team or not. Bolton have won one of the last 6 meetings between the two sides. I think the thing with if I look at Bolton on paper and I look at Wigan on paper, I think Wigan don't have. I know they've got Castello and they've got Sadie, but then I look at the Bolton team, and you've got Sissoko, Koji Jubi, who I mention a lot, Mason Burstow, Thierry Gale. I think they've in my head they've just got more match winners on paper than a Wigan side, and I do think it's only a matter of time. I don't think it'll be this week because Wigan are an extremely solid and a very good side. I don't think it's going to be long until we see Bolton blow somebody away and win 4-5-0. If we go off my expected points table, which can finally make a return at this point in the season, they're top. They would be top of the expected points table, followed by Bradford and then followed by Wigan. So we've got 2 on paper of the best sides playing each other this weekend. See, I think
But
it'll be
football's won on the pitch, not on paper, is it? That's the saying, isn't it? I think this one is very tricky to predict. I think, and the fact that it's a 12:30 kickoff as well.
Your favourite
on Sky Sports Plus, makes me verge towards a scoreline that I think is probably quite controversial. I just reckon it's going to be 0-0.
Oh my god, I think that's one of the first 0-0s you ever predicted. I'm not going to lie.
But you know what I mean? Like
I know what you mean.
It feels like a game, and this happens a lot, and it's always 12:30s for some reason. Games that we predict will be incredible, but
terrible.
then just end up being a bit bleh. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, if we're going off home and away form at this point, Wigan haven't won away in their 4 away games. They've drawn 2 and lost 2, and then Bolton on the flip side at home haven't lost, with 2 wins and 2 draws. So I think Bolton have a match winner, especially at home. I do agree. I don't think while I think both these teams are exceptionally good going forward, they're both also very astute defensively, shall we say.
Yeah.
They also play similar styles of football as well nowadays. I am going to go with 2-1 to Bolton for this one.
If I had to verge towards a side, it'd be Bolton, but it's just got that early kick-off feel about it. 2 teams that if it was a 3:00 game would be scoring willy-nilly, but I can't see it, and I don't know what it is. I feel like it's the curse of the 12:30 kickoff. So I'll go 0-0.
Okie dokie. So moving on to another humdinger of a fixture for this weekend is Cardiff City versus Bradford City. Obviously, Cardiff last time out got a very late equaliser against Stockport County in injury time to maintain their unbeaten record. The only side in League One who are currently still unbeaten, which shows that bit of character that we were questioning with Cardiff. Can they dig in and pick up results late on when things are going against them? And they did. They face a Bradford City side who have been exceptional, bar 1 lapse against Doncaster. They've been exceptional, 14 goals scored, 10 conceded, and Poynton is probably the player to stand out with 5 goals already so far this season. We do have a fan feature which features Bradford a bit later on as well. In terms of this one, again, it's extremely difficult to predict.
Yeah, it's one of them. You don't want to say it's whether these 2 sides will be where they are at the end of the season. I feel like it is. We're a couple games away from saying these are genuine contenders. These are genuinely the right positions. But it does have that big match feel about it, and it does feel like Bradford have snuck under everyone's noses. To be fair, not making many standout signings, but being very clever with their recruitment. And it does feel like they are here to challenge, whether that is for the playoffs or for the title. We shall find out. Cardiff, again, have snuck under all of our noses. I don't think any of us expected them to be as resolute as they are, I think is the phrase. The fact they've only conceded 2 goals in 7 games is very, very impressive, which makes you wonder what's going to give here. Is it Bradford's goal scoring record, or is it Cardiff's defensive records? And again, you wonder if it's going to be either, and if it's just going to be a very tight, turgid affair. I think is probably where I'm thinking. Are they just going to cancel each other out, or is one side going to take the game by the scruff of the neck? If one side is going to do that, you would imagine it would be Cardiff as the home side. But again, would Bradford allow them to play that way? I'm personally, again, I feel like I don't want to predict another draw here because 1-1 is calling my name. I'm gonna go Cardiff 2-1, and I think it will be a very tight game if that makes sense. I think it'll be very, very, very tight.
Yeah, I think the standout player you mentioned, obviously signings for Bradford. I think the standout so far has been Max Power. In terms of, obviously, he's got League One pedigree. He's won promotion. I think it was with Wigan from League One before. Nerfield's obviously come in and hit the ground running as well. Will Swan has gone completely under the radar as well with his goal contributions. A striker that never really scored goals anywhere he's been, and he's come into this Bradford team and just hit the ground running. Because if we look at Max Power, he's got 63 touches per 90, 71.4% dribble success, He wins his tackles 1.6 per 90. He wins 70% of his aerial duels as well. So they're a very good second ball team as well as first ball team, Bradford City. And it's it's a very similar style in terms of what Port Vale play. And that's what Cardiff struggled with when they played Port Vale. Cardiff are sitting 12th in the XG table, while Bradford do sit 3rd as well. I might back a draw purely because I think the underdogs are Bradford going to this game. It's not often you say that at League One level, that Bradford City are the underdogs. It'll be a really good atmosphere in a lovely stadium, even if they probably should be in the Welsh League. Use that tongue in cheek. So I'm going to say 1-1 draw for that one. I can already feel the keyboard warriors now going after me.
I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be an interesting game, one to keep an eye on, definitely.
So moving on to Blackpool versus Barnsley. Now, I think there's only one place to start with this, is Steve Bruce. We discussed it briefly last week. They obviously smacked Barrow in the Virtue Trophies, whatever name it's called nowadays, Bristol Street, Papa John's, whatever, trophy 5-0, which will do the squad a world of good in terms of confidence. But everything's looking a bit gloomy in the old League One table. And so far, Barnsley have been one of, I'd say, 3 of the surprise packages so far in League One. We didn't really know what to expect with a Conor Hourihane side. We knew from his playing days there would be a complete transition of style of play.
Yeah.
But is he a good enough manager to sort of get everything out of the players? And by all accounts, so far, he is.
Is he a coach or is he a manager? Will remain the question. We'll see. I feel like the managerial elements, the player managing, that sort of thing will come on as the season progresses. Is he able to manage his squad, or is he just coaching them? With Blackpool, the illuminations might have started, but they've certainly not lit up the season so far. They're just dragging. Like, I can't see where anything is coming from for there. Like, 1 goal in their last 4 league appearances. Like, they got everything out against Huddersfield Town, but they've scored 1 goal since then, which is terrible. Like, it is relegation level of goal scoring form. I just struggle to see. We spoke last season so much about the midfield and how creative it is. I struggle to see where that spark is. A lot of debate about their starting lineup. I've seen about why certain players aren't starting, this, that, and the other. I just struggle to see it. Do you know? I struggle to see what the thinking there is. We mentioned it a lot last week, and I don't know. Very, very confusing in terms of how Blackpool season is going to go. But Barnsley, we should give them credit. We all laughed at Seb when he said second in our predictions episode, which already, I think, if you go back and watch that, there's probably a few howlers in there. But all credit to Barnsley. They're doing very, very well. 1 point off top, which, again, probably wouldn't have predicted it at this point. And they go into this game, albeit away from home, but probably as favourites, you'd say. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring affair, albeit with Barnsley as second top goal scorers. Only Huddersfield has scored more than them. I still think it's going to be a tight affair. There's not many goals in recent Blackpool games. I think it's a couple of 1-1s, 0-0s, and a 1-0, I think. So yeah, I'm going to go 1-0 to Barnsley on this one. It'll be a very tight game, but I just can't see Blackpool's creativity.
Okay. Yeah, I said it last week about Blackpool. I think there's just a big misprofiling of the players they've got, to be honest. Yeah. I don't think Bruce knows each individual player's characteristics and strengths to get the best out of them. And I think that's where they're lacking. Like, if we go through their squad, they have quality all over the pitch. They do have quality. Like, you've got Ashley Fletcher and Niall Ennis as your 2 strikers. And lots of League One clubs would dream of a strike force like that. And I think the weird thing is like Lee Evans hasn't played as much as we thought, especially how good he was last year. And like the defensive signings you expect them, even if they're drawing it 0-0 every week, they've got something to build on because they're so good defensively. But the fact they're leaking goals, which is not something we expect, but 14 goals conceded, And they're going against a Barnsley side who goals per game are the best team in the division with 2 goals per game. I know Huddersfield have scored more, but they've played a game more. So goals per game, Barnsley have scored the most. So I expect Barnsley to continue that 2 goals per game. And I think they'll beat Blackpool 2-1.
Yeah, I think it's just one of them. I just wonder where Blackpool's season is going to kickstart. We all thought against Huddersfield that'd be it, and they followed it up with our win since. So.
Yeah. Moving on to your team, Callum, Lincoln City. They host Luton Town, who obviously come off the back of the defeat to Plymouth Argyle, going off their form this year. Loss, win, loss, win, loss. So they're probably expected to beat the Imps this weekend.
Well, yeah, but depending on the score in the game involving Barnsley and Blackpool, which is also a 12:30 kickoff, Lincoln win this game, they go top of the league. If I'm correct, yeah, they go top of the league. If the Bradford score, and that's how tight it is at the top, 2 points between first and seventh, where Lincoln currently are, and all is looking good. 1 defeat in all competitions so far this season, and that was Wimbledon's first game at home in League One at this level. So there are criticisms of what has happened. You know, falling to defeats after being in winning positions. That happened 3 times in a row, but they stuck it out against Burton. I think that was a huge result. Personally, you went 1-0 up early on in that game, and then Burton did throw the kitchen sink at them, but Lincoln stayed resolute, and they have that experience, and they've got that field in depth, which we all laughed at them for not having at the start of the season. The people that have come in, I don't think weaken the team when they come on the pitch either. I think they're very, very solid defensively and going forward. They've got options. They can change things about. And, you know, Luton are a big name coming to Sincilbank. So it's the second one. We've got Luton, then we've got Chelsea midweek. So one eye will undoubtedly be on that. You wonder whether that will impact the side that is played, knowing the staff at Lincoln. They probably won't. They'll just tell the players to go out there and give it them all, and I don't doubt the players will do that. They probably will. They're professionals at the end of the day. I never thought I'd say this. I back Lincoln. I have to back them, and I'm going to back them 2-0.
Oh, blimey. Okay.
I'm going to back them 2-0. I just think there's something about this Lincoln side that doesn't give up. So.
Okay, I've gone for 3-1 to Luton, and there's 2 reasons for this. Number 1, there's 2 ways you can look at the Chelsea fixture. You can look at it as a motivation for the players. Like I look at Bradford, they've got Newcastle. You can use it as motivation to make a name for yourself and get yourself in the team for that fixture. Or you can look at it from the other point of view in terms of mentally, I don't want to get injured for a game like that. I know they're professional footballers and they probably don't think like this. But in the back of your mind, subconsciously you're thinking, oh, we've got Chelsea this week. I don't want to fly into a 50-50 and maybe come off worse or something like that. And I do think, and this is no gripe against Lincoln because, like you say, you've been pretty outstanding so far this season. And a lot of us expected them, especially with their early business, to think, oh, they'll be a bit lower in the table. And they do seem to have this sort of knack and character in the squad, especially with the experience now of James Collins, Sonny Bradley, to grind things out. I'm going to go for a 2-1 to Luton, but I wouldn't be surprised if you managed.
He's brought it down.
I'm not going to go 3. I'll go 2. But I think it's going to be a game where it's going to be decided on a duel being lost, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It
is the early kickoff, so it's got 0-0 written all over it. I think Lincoln's record in the early kickoffs last season, if I remember correctly, was not the best.
Your XG conceded is also not the best. You're 6th.
Oh.
6th worst in the league.
George Wickens is a man reborn this season. I will tell you that.
Surprisingly, the 6 worst teams, the 5 worst teams than Luton are Plymouth, who are the worst, Stockport, Peterborough, Leyton Orient, and Rotherham. They're the 5 worst teams than Lincoln in terms of XG. And now we move on to them teams who have got the worst XG than Lincoln. Is Plymouth versus Peterborough. Plymouth characterful last week, 7 goals scored in the last 2 games, which can only be a huge confidence booster for them. against a Peterborough side who finally got their first league win of the season, but do still sit bottom, but beating Wycombe at home 2-1, but they now make that long trip down to Plymouth, who have now won 3 of their last 5. So things are starting to look up for Tom Cleverley's men. How do you see this one playing out?
I don't know. It feels weird that Plymouth's 2 wins have come against sides that we predicted to be up there. But then another side that we predicted to be up there in Cardiff, they got swept aside. So it's hard to paint a narrative around Plymouth at the minute. The murmurings around the club of discontent have been quieted for now. I think Tom Cleverley's finally getting a grip of what the challenges there are. He knows his squad. He knows the players he's got to work with. And scoring 7 goals in 2 games is not an accident. That doesn't happen freakishly. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know your roles in order to do that. It doesn't, you can't do that as kids playing in League One, can you? So, but Peterborough, I don't know. Maybe the narrative we've painted around Wycombe and Peterborough before the season as being sides that could push on and whatnot, and where we expected Wycombe to be, maybe beating Wycombe at home isn't that impressive. Or maybe it's the sign of something for Peterborough. I don't know. These 2 sides are very much out of place from where we expected them to be, I think. So it's hard to judge whether that was an impressive result for Peterborough. I still think they're going to struggle. And I think on this away trip, they're also going to struggle. Obviously, Peterborough, without an away win this season, I don't think it's going to be pretty for them. I'm going to predict Plymouth to win 3-0, I think.
Okay. Plymouth to win 3-0. I've gone for 3-2 to Plymouth. I just think there's all. I said this last week. It's all one of them games which has loads of goals in, and I got it wrong last week. I'll probably get it wrong this week. I think the alarming thing though, from a Plymouth point of view, is the amount of penalties they've conceded. They've conceded 4 penalties in 8 games.
Yeah,
so they're very accident prone at the back. Like I mentioned, the worst XG conceded in the league, but some of the teams they have played have been towards the top end of the table, and they were integrating a brand new squad. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. It'll be interesting to see, can Plymouth now kick on? They've got that bit of momentum now behind them, a couple of wins, a bit of confidence going throughout the squad.
I'm going to put that as my wild card as well. Not because I'm potentially confident in the scoreline, but I just think, I think Plymouth are more nailed on winners for this game than any other. So at least I should get a bonus there. We'll see.
Okay. Moving on to the review show hosts Jamie's team. They face AFC Wimbledon this week. So Doncaster are sitting 6th in League One with 5 wins, 1 draw and 2 losses. Only the 9 goals scored, which is probably the most alarming thing about Doncaster so far this season. They're not going to win 1-0 every week. I think that's fair to say. They're going to concede goals. At some point, they'll get a bit worked out and they have to adapt. So the goal scoring is the big problem for Doncaster. A lot of goals from midfield from Owen Bailey have massively helped. We're still waiting for, I think, Luke Molyneux kind of to explode so far this season. I think that's fair to say. After he hit basically set the world on fire in League Two last season. They face a Wimbledon side who have had a steady start to the season, 4 wins and 4 defeats, winning last time out from behind against Rotherham at home. And it is their home form that we've said about these promoted sides that is the crucial part. But for Wimbledon going to another newly promoted team with them, can they even pick up a point away from home? That's probably the big thing. They've not drawn a game yet. So can they start to grind out these games where, especially away from home, can you pick up just a point here, point there? So I think it's quite a big game for Wimbledon.
And just the 1 win on the travels out of their 4 away games so far for Wimbledon, you'd struggle to see if it would come against a side with the 5th best home form in the league as well in Doncaster. I personally think Wimbledon will struggle here. I think Wimbledon are going to struggle from here on in. But then again, beating Rotherham last time out, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. We'll see. But I do struggle to see where Wimbledon's away form takes them this season. As we mentioned so often, it is the home form for sides like Wimbledon and Bradford, although Bradford, I think we need to recalibrate as well our expectations of them. But in terms of scoreline prediction, I'll go 2-1 to Doncaster, I think.
That's what I've gone for this one.
I think they need a game that they grind out after
Yeah.
a disappointing result last time. To be beaten 3-0 by Wigan, that was obviously disappointing for them. They need a result that they're able to grind out, I think.
Yeah. I think it's sort of a reality check as well, isn't it? That it's not going to be
Yeah.
plain sailing in League One. To get thumped by a team who we do expect to be quite up there at the end of the season. So I think it can react as a reality check for Doncaster as well.
100%. Yeah.
So moving on to our fan feature for this week, brought to you by Skybet, is the dark horses for promotion. We said we'd get back to Bradford City, and we did a poll on our X account. If you don't follow us, at League One Lowdown, and the one is the number one. So out of the votes, the 4 teams I chose were Bradford City, Stevenage, Lincoln, and Doncaster, which is probably fair based on the title, the table so far. 4% of you said Stevenage, which I was quite surprised by. If they keep everyone fit, there's no reason why they can't, especially with their home form. 11% of you said Lincoln City.
Represent.
These were all Callum on his burner accounts. 35% was Doncaster Rovers. My problem with Doncaster is the lack of goal scoring, to be honest.
Yeah.
And 50% of you, which doesn't really surprise me because in the biggest fan base, is Bradford City. Now, we've been very complimentary, especially of how quickly they've adapted to League One. 14 goals, 10 conceded, massive stadium. And there will be that sense of sort of
big clubbery
ambition
about them. Yeah.
Yeah. And there is that pressure on the players, but they seem to have adapted really well. Alexander seems to know, and it's the complete contrast to what Steve Bruce is doing. He knows the best attributes and how to get the best out of every single one of his players in his team. Look at Will Swan, for example. He'd never scored goals anywhere he's been. He's gone to Bradford and he scored 4 goals. Billy Poynton, 5 goals so far this season. They've got 2 players with 9 goals. They've got Andy Cook to come back. They've still got Stephen Humphreys. So if they can keep their key players fit, they've got a pretty good 11. I'd say probably a pretty good 16 for League One level.
Yeah, and you do wonder where, like I just said, what is our expectation of them? We weren't too impressed with the players they'd brought in, but I suppose we don't see all the internal data that all these teams have these days. I'm going to come in the corner. I'm going to get in the Lincoln City corner and bat for my own side here. As a lot of people would have heard in the predictions, was very worried this season. We went into the start of the season, only signed 2 players. A lot of the areas of the squad were left unaddressed. It was very, very worrying. But Lincoln read the market very, very well. They've signed good loan players that can come in and do a job, I think. And the players that they do have adapted. Freddie Draper as a cam is a position I would have never expected him to, but he's doing that very well. And obviously Rob Street is apparently the next Jovan McCartmer, and by that we mean he's a striker that's reborn on the right side of midfield at this point. Who would have thought it? But I think Michael Skubala knows his Lincoln City side like the back of his hand, and I think that's what is showing here. He's got different options, but profiles of players that aren't too different and can do different jobs. The flexibility in that squad is incredible. And whether this is dark horses for the league title or for the top 2 or dark horses for playoffs, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. We're not even a quarter of the way through this season yet. But Lincoln, it's tight at the top.
It is.
And I would not be surprised to see Lincoln now in those playoffs. To be fair, I wouldn't be surprised to see Bradford. I might be surprised to see Stevenage in there, but given the start to the season that both Doncaster and Bradford have had, and it was the opposite of a dark horse, the light horses, I suppose. Given the light horses that we would have expected having bad starts to the seasons, the likes of Stockport not taking it by the scruff of the neck, Plymouth not being around there, Wycombe obviously falling off, Blackpool and Peterborough are nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
There's no team has taken this league by the scruff of the neck like Birmingham or Wrexham did last season. So I think it is wide open. So that they're out of those 2, I'll probably say I back Bradford and Lincoln to be the ones that turn into dark horses this season, but I don't see a reason why any of them couldn't do it.
No, I would agree with you, especially on Bradford, mainly because of the. So if they get to January, for example, players will want to join them at the end of the day. Because they are, like we've made, a big football club
now,
and a very attractive football club to join. Lincoln, I looking through the squad, it's an extremely balanced squad. Like, we were critical last year; the squad was too young. I think we all agreed the squad was a bit too young. In January, you went and got James Collins. In the summer, you've gone and got Sonny Bradley.
It'll address the issues there. Yeah.
Exactly. You cannot. Money can't buy that sort of experience because you wouldn't be paying them stupid money either. At the end of the day, Lincoln are very astute with what they do. Yeah, they're very, very clever in the transfer market at Lincoln. So there's no reason why Lincoln, I don't think, can get top 6. A dark horse for top 2, I think, is a bit too far of a stretch.
Yeah, I would tentatively agree.
I would probably say Bradford are the team that I would watch for a top 2 if they can keep their big players fit. Stevenage, I think it all depends where they are come January. Yeah. If they are in and around the top 6, their owner is a very good owner and will back them. I think he will back Alex Ravel. And I think we've seen that there is a different side to Stevenage, especially going forward. Out of possession, they're still the same old Stevenage. You don't want to play against them. They're very physical, especially we've got Charlie Good and Pia Gianni at the back, very physical. And going forward, they've got that pace, the flair, the directness. And they've got a goal scorer in Jamie Reid, who looks fully fit this season. And my biggest concern for Doncaster would be the lack of goals at the moment.
Yeah.
You could throw Barnsley in there, but Barnsley is a name for League One, in my opinion, should be a top 6 side anyway, which is why they weren't included in the list. If I was to pick your brains very quickly and ask you for a bottom half team that you think may break into that sort of bracket in the top 4 or 5, who would you say is going to do it?
The momentum's with Plymouth, isn't it? Which I don't think I would have expected. Also, Northampton have won 3 on a bounce, but I can't see that lasting personally. If I had to back any of them, we've talked a lot about Wycombe's potential swing, what they could do once the players gel. I think out of all the ones, because Bolton are still technically in the top half, aren't they? So I can't back them. I think Leyton Orient are going to have a middling season, no offence. So do you know what? Yeah. After being very doom and gloom about Plymouth the past few weeks, if they can keep this current run up, I'll back them.
Okie dokie. So that is the end of the fan feature with Sky Bet. So moving on to the final sort of blitz through our games. Reading versus Leyton Orient is first on the agenda. The O's obviously getting a draw against Bolton last time out. Killer. Sort of we're playing with 10 men. And I've got to mention this because it baffled me at the game. We all love my rants. We all do.
Here we go. Seatbelt.
I'll put this in the group chat. So get your seatbelt on, buckle in. So I've got to tell the story because looking back on it, I shouldn't have reacted the way I did to the poor person. So we've got 10. One of our players has cramp. He cannot move. He physically is walking around the pitch. You know when they just drag their leg along? Like a floppy leg. It's just walking around. At this point, we'd had 2 injuries, so we've made 2 subs at 2 intervals. We made 2 at the 3rd interval. So we have no more intervals left to make substitutions. And this person behind me, and he was doing it for about 5 minutes because he couldn't move, was shouting, "Wellens, make a sub." And I'm sitting here thinking, oh my God, please shut up. You're embarrassing yourself in front of, 600 people. Everyone. And he kept doing it. And then they scored. And he got out of his seat and just went for it. And I'm sitting there thinking, they've just scored, so now I'm really wound up. And I've just turned to him and just had a go at him because it's like, we've used 3 intervals. And he looked at me really confused with life. It's like, what are you on about? It's like, we've used 3 intervals. We can't make any more.
People are supporting a game that they don't know the rules
of. And it's like, I'm sure Wellens, if he could make another sub with a player that can't move, he would make the sub. I just had to tell that story because it baffled me, and now the world knows what sort of pain I have to put up with supporting my own club with the idiot that sits behind me.
Every club has them. Every club has them.
Moving back to the football, Noel Hunt is under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Unbeaten in 3 of their last 5, but only the 1 win. There is rumours, obviously, Rob Couhig now owns Reading, that Gareth Ainsworth is going to make a return. Poor old Gareth Ainsworth has got more clubs than I've had hot dinners at the moment. He's going here, there, and everywhere. Rob Couhig obviously trusts Gareth Ainsworth. managed him, had him previously at Wycombe, and they had a very successful relationship at Wycombe. I think the next 3 games are very big for Noel Hunt. We've got another international break coming up. Whoopie-doo. So I think I think you'll see managers have the 3 games, and we're then going to start seeing a bit of a merry-go-round. Especially at home, Reading must win. I think there's no way about it. Reading need the win.
Yeah.
But I don't think they'll get it. Orient have injury concerns, especially defensively. But going forward, when they're on it, I firmly believe they're one of the best teams in the league going forward. When you've got Koroma, Mitchell, O'Neill, Morehouse, Connolly, Ballard, I think it's one of the best in League One. And for that reason, I'm going to put Orient to win 3-1.
Interesting. I think when you've got a new owner, you either make the decision to make a change straight away, or then, as we saw with Ten Hag, I think when Radcliffe came in at Man United, you have to stick by your decision.
Yeah.
Even if that makes you look a bit stupid in retrospect, just because you have to either fall by the sword or die by the sword, or whatever the phrase is. So I don't think, out of all the teams that are underperforming, maybe Noel Hunt's not in the most amount of danger.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean he's not under pressure by the fan base. And that's a different kind of pressure. And at home, we always talk about home being a great place to get support. But when your team's in a bad run of form, that can easily go against you. And I think for that reason, I'm verging towards Leyton Orient, not necessarily because of any... this is more a vibes-based prediction,
Yes.
I suppose. It's back. But do you know, I think that's that can often stand for a lot. So I'm going to go Leyton Orient 2-1. 2-1, yeah. 2-1, why not?
Moving on to Port Vale versus Mansfield then. Port Vale got their first league win last time out. I still think defensively they're fine. Again, it's the goal scoring factor. I know they scored 2 away from home against Exeter, which is a massive win for them, I must say. Mansfield have had the dip in form that I expected after they played Everton in the Cup. A draw, lost, draw. I think Port Vale at home, with Devante Cole now fit, another goal for him, I think they'll win 2-1.
For me, it's got draw written all over it. I'm going to go 1-1. I think they'll both cancel each other out at different points. Neither team. I think Port Vale will need the 3 points more than Mansfield will come the end of the season. But this is not the end of the season, so I don't think either of them will particularly risk much to get the 3 points.
Wycombe versus Northampton. Northampton are on a stellar run of form. 3 wins in a row, but still only the 5 goals in their 7 games, but massively as well. They've only conceded 6. So Kevin Nolan's got a well-oiled machine, which doesn't surprise me considering who he's been managed by, if that makes sense. Sam Allardyce, and been under the stewardship of David Moyes. Against a Wycombe side who, when you think they're going to hit some form after beating Mansfield 2-0, come back down to earth with a failure against Peterborough. You used the term quite a lot last year. They're very bipolar. They are the bipolar team of this year. And I wouldn't want to play against Northampton. They're a horrible team to play against. They do all the basics well. They defend properly, old school, and they are very good on the counter-attack. So I'm going to back Northampton at Adams Park to win 1-0.
I think this is a scoreline we're going to disagree with. I'm going to back Wycombe here. I think that inconsistency is something we'll see a lot of. And it is all about what Wycombe side turn up. Is it the one that beat Mansfield? Is it the one that lost to Peterborough? I'm going to go with the Mansfield one. I'm going to go 2-0 to Wycombe.
Okay.
I don't know what it is about Northampton. I just can't get hugely excited about them.
Moving on to Stevenage versus Exeter. Exeter have lost 3 of their last 5 now. Stevenage are still trundling along nicely in 4th place with only 1 defeat so far this season, which was to Huddersfield Town away, which is no sort of disharm in sort of that performance. So I'm going to back Stevenage. I think they're exceptional at home, and I think they'll win 2-0.
Exeter have been the most average team really this season, haven't they? Same amount scored as conceded, but for how average they've been, they've not actually drawn a game yet, which I think is remarkable. So that's the score I'm going to predict. I think I've gone with a lot of draws this week, so maybe one of them will be right. I'll go. We'll go 2-2. Why not? I
2-1?
don't know. I
Okay.
don't know why I'm going with that, but we're going with that, and we'll see.
That's your third predicted draw for this week.
Oh, so that's not too bad, actually.
So moving on to Huddersfield Town versus Burton. Huddersfield, one of the best teams at home this season. Burton doing what they do best, being 22nd so far at the end of September. That seems to be a very Burton thing. Sorry, Burton fans. Huddersfield at home, I expect a proper performance from Huddersfield. It's been a bit party, especially away from home. But they seem to have got their home form on point. So I think they'll win 3-0.
3-0.
And that's my wild card.
Burton. Okay. The thing is with Burton, they're not getting wins on the board, but they're playing well.
Yeah.
Like they played all right against Lincoln. Then Lincoln didn't have many opportunities, but Burton didn't create much themselves. So I think that's going to be the story of this game. I think it's going to be 2-0. I verged on a 1-0. I just think Burton are very inoffensive as a team, and they need to be a bit more. This is probably going to sound a bit stupid because they, there were some very dodgy tackles last week, but they need to be a bit more mean. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They need to be a bit more ruthless, a bit less respectful. Probably is the way to go about it.
And you don't win things by being nice on a football pitch, like as Mourinho said in that Spurs documentary.
Exactly.
And we can't repeat them, the words he said. Moving on to the final game is Rotherham versus Stockport. Obviously, Stockport have had a very indifferent start to the season. 1 win in their last 5, being pegged back in the last minute against Cardiff last week. And if you talk to their fans, they've been pretty disappointed with the way they've been playing as well. But with Rotherham, obviously, I think Matt Hamshaw's another manager under pressure. Also 1 win in 5, 6 goals scored, 10 conceded. I think Stockport will get back to being a Stockport that we've seen the past couple of years, and they'll win 2-1.
Yeah, you just wonder where it's gone for them, because they were so good last season, and what's stopping them? But then again, they're only 5 points off the top, and it that can change quickly, can't it? So there's no point getting too drawn up on it. They could win and be in the playoffs by the end of this week, depending on how scores go, and then you're looking at it completely differently. So I'm going to back Stockport, but 1-0. I don't think it's going to be a particularly high-scoring week this week. I think I've actually predicted not many goals, to be honest.
The most goals you've got in a game is Stevenage Exeter with 4, and then you've got Plymouth Peterborough with 3.
Yeah, I can't see many games being particularly interesting games, but not necessarily the most goals. But then again, we'll see.
Okay. Well, that's about it for this week's preview show. If you have enjoyed, make sure you subscribe on YouTube, follow us on all your preferred platforms, and make sure you follow us on Twitter at League One Lowdown to get involved in the conversations that we do after every match day. But if you haven't, and hopefully we'll see you all next week. Thank you everyone for listening.